Hello. Well, here we are back at the Capitol. This week we've had bills in the Higher Ed Committee that I wanted to just take a little time and tell you about. If you recall, this past summer our Attorney General came out with some pretty strong allegations with regard to some of the for-profit schools. And so she said that as part of that initiative, that she would put forward proposals for legislation. So when I got Attorney General Swanson's legislative proposals, I thought that it was really appropriate to give her a forum to be able to have those bills heard, discussed, and so that's what we did this week. I carried them on the Attorney General's behalf, and I did so to allow them to come to the table and share why they were recommending what they were recommending. And really, there were two areas that they were addressing. One is with regard to the high cost of schools that may not yield an equally high-paying job. And so, for example, they had students testify who said that they wanted to be in law enforcement. They entered their programs, they incurred a great amount of debt, but then they found out they weren't qualified to actually be a peace officer afterward. And so they had to go to another program, and then came to find out that the credits didn't transfer because there's a difference in accreditation. And the school that they were in, the for-profit school, was accredited one way, and the schools where they could have gotten their peace officer license were accredited in a different fashion. And so this bill would be a transparency bill where it would allow students to get the information about, do their credits transfer? Can they get the jobs they expect to get? How many students withdraw from the program? How many students graduate? Things like that. And so it was a pretty tough hearing. We had students who shared some stories where they felt that they had really been hurt, both financially and also just that emotional hurt that comes from unfulfilled expectations. The second bill that the Attorney General put forward was around disclosure on behalf of lenders. So for example, you might take out a loan, or a student would take out a loan, not realizing that over the life of that loan, that it was, of course, in fact, a lot greater than when they first took it out, as those of us who have mortgages understand. But if you have gotten a mortgage, you know that you sit down at the very beginning and you go through a great amount of detail and disclosure because of the federal requirements to allow you to see what, in fact, you're getting into. So right now, our banks that are under the federal rules do have similar disclosures required for the student loan industry, but there are private banks that don't have those disclosures required, and that is what this bill addressed. In addition, Senator Benson and Senator Franson both put forward similar disclosure bills. Each one took a different tack. So as a committee, we'll take all of these bills and then we'll look at how do we want to address the problems associated with debt and with some of the unfair practices that occur along the whole higher ed chain. I had a bill up in the tax committee finally. This bill addressed one of the issues that was an unintended consequence of the previous tax hike, although I thought that it was something that was predicted. You know, when the fourth tier was enacted, it had a similar impact, not just on personal income, but on those who filed in S-corps or LLCs or what's called pass-through entities, so that the business income actually became taxed at the same higher rate. The effect of that is essentially that our small businesses are paying a higher tax rate than the major corporations, and so this bill sought to roll that back. It was very expensive to do that, and so I offered an amendment to deal with just one sector of the pass-through entities, the S-corps, because traditionally those are smaller businesses, whereas some of the LLCs are really quite large, and so the protections, if we were to do that, it would certainly cost much more, and not sure that they needed the help quite as much as the small businesses, particularly those small family businesses who are trying to grow and hire more people. So that's the areas of legislation to address this week. Please read the newsletter, and as always, let me know what you think.